Alright, so in today's video, I'll be going over how I made the stream package for Daric. But before we get into how I actually made it, we should probably have a look at what it actually looks like. So here it comes. Usually with most packages that I do, I just kind of go with the flow based on the information that I've been told by whoever I'm making the overlays or stream package for. Usually it's quite natural the way it comes to me. I just sit down with their prompts in mind, color scheme, what they want for each item, and maybe some examples they've sent me. For this package, it was a little bit different because I had pretty free reign over what I wanted to do, or what I could do, and the only real thing that I had to keep in mind was to keep it clean and simple, and I had to attack this a bit differently than how I'd usually do it. This time I made a little storyboard sketch type thing to kind of get some ideas out on paper and then evaluate what I think would work best. And now I should probably say that I already had kind of an idea of a theme I really wanted to do, which is a theme I've been wanting to do for a while. The theme in this case is paper tears, texture, all that stuff, which you could probably tell from the little preview that you just watched. If you take my sketches from the mood board and put them side by side with the finalized items from the little preview, you can see that most of the items are actually quite similar, like the cam overlay, the way the just chatting is set up. The mood board and sketches also helped me actually visualize how I needed to tear the papers, because you can tear papers in so many different ways and you can just make it random, but I knew I had certain pieces that I needed for the individual items, so I kind of had that in mind while tearing the paper so I could get some shapes that I could actually work with in post. And that kind of brings us into the next chapter, gathering of materials / assets. For this specific package, I wanted to make it a point to gather my own assets, make my own, just to make it more unique and more personal. And also just kind of experiment with that technique, because usually, I mean, it's so easy just to get assets online that, you know, I just gravitate towards that, but I kind of wanted to challenge myself a little bit as well. So anyways, it was quite a simple process. I really have two types of assets that I use for this project. I have the paper tears and the paper texture, which I just created by taking a rough sketchbook paper and just kind of tearing it up how I needed it to be torn up. And then I also crumbled a piece of paper and took pictures of it. And then I pretty much just used that same picture and just looped it in 4 different rotations, so vertical and horizontal flips. And that was pretty much all I did to animate the texture for the whole package. Once I had all the pieces torn up as well, I simply just put them on my black table just to get a lot of contrast between the two items, which would make it easier for me to separate them in Photoshop. I basically just opened them in Photoshop and I masked them out. There you go, assets. Completely custom made. Now the second type of asset that I made was some brush strokes that I used throughout various parts of the projects, like arrows, kind of like fillings. I did some X's, some circles, some text, and the icons for the camera overlay as well. The way I made most of the assets was just by screen recording my iPad and then just going into Procreate, and then I just used a white canvas and a black brush, and I used a couple different textured brushes just to get some different results. And then I just recorded me scribbling. It's already animated because I already have the screen recording, so I just have to remove the background, which is quite easy in After Effects. I didn't really have to do much in After Effects other than just duplicate the layer and then put it in reverse to kind of animate in and out. And then for some of the clips I did have to adjust the speed, but you know, that's just based on what you need in that specific situation. Now for the icons that I used for the camera overlay, I basically just drew 4 different versions of them. It adds a very small thing. You don't really notice it, but you know, it's in the details. This kind of ties into the next chapter as well, which I've decided to title Fundamentals of the Items. By this I just mean different aspects of each item that will go again or like be repeated in every single item. So for example, the paper crumble texture is used in every single item that I made in various different ways. I use it as a displacement map to get some texture in there. I use it as an overlay. I just, you know, change the blending mode to give it some more paper look. And then I also use the brushes and the paper tears in all of the different items in different ways. By using all these same assets multiple times, it kind of gives it more cohesion, and by minimizing the amount of assets that I use and reusing assets in different ways, it keeps it more simple, keeps it cleaner. I don't pull in a bunch of different things that are unnecessary. I just kind of keep it to the basics, and that's usually what creates the best items. Now for the final chapter, I want to do a breakdown of a single effect, which is the paper tear. Most of the other effects you use are quite simple, but if you have any questions, you can leave them down below. Basically what I did was I had the main piece, and then I used a different asset that I had, a different paper tear, to kind of break the main piece into smaller bits. I did this to keep the roughness of the edges so they wouldn't be too sharp or too fake. And then I just had to bring it into After Effects, and then I animated the position, the scale, and the rotation of each piece. I did this backwards, so I started with the last frame that I wanted it to end up on, animated it backwards to go out, and then once you play it, it'll go in because you did it backwards. But anyways, so the way I made it look more stop motion is by using an effect I really love. It's called Posterized Time. I worked in a 60 FPS timeline, so by using Posterized Time, I was able to lower the frame rate of the individual layer. This just kind of helped to sell the effect of it actually being stop motion. I think I set it down to like 12 frames or something. So basically, instead of playing in 60 frames per second, it simulates playing at 12 frames per second. And then also by having very big drastic movements in the keyframes already, it sells the effect even more because it kind of just looks like it's stop frame, but it's just easier than actually having to move the layer and split it. And that was pretty much it for this video. I hope you enjoyed watching me going over what I did and why I did what I did. But yeah, as I said previously, if you have any questions about any other effects in the stream package, you can leave them down below and I'll get back to it. If not, I hope you have a wonderful day, and until then, be safe.